Frank Stanford on CFAX 1070.
Did you participate at all? Did you respond to the government's call for public input in its British Columbia Rural Highway Speed Limit Review? The Transportation Minister has recently revealed that he will be announcing changes based on recommendations from the recently concluded review. Should they go up, down, sideways? What should? Certainly an argument could be made on Vancouver Island, for instance, on the Trans-Canada Highway up and down the island, the island highway, if you will, that at least it ought to be consistent. You know, it's hard when, 1 second you're in an 80 zone, another you're in a 100 zone, then it drops to 90 again, then you know what, And when the cop pulls you over and says, "What's the speed limit?" you say, "I don't know." I sympathize with that and hope they'll fix that. I want to welcome to the program at this time the founder of an organization called SENSE, Safety Through Education, Not Speed Enforcement. I remember these guys. How many years ago was it that you campaigned so actively and successfully against photo radar enforcement in British Columbia? Eden Tootle, thanks for joining us on CFAX once again this morning.
Oh, thanks for asking me on, Frank. We started in 1995, actually. So
it's been a couple of decades now, just about.
Yes. My, how time flies.
And you're still active. There continue to be issues that would draw your attention.
Well, we're no longer a not-for-profit society that we were. We just kind of remained as an information conduit. That's what we like to do. And we've got some ideas about what we think should be done on BC roads to make them safer and more enjoyable for people. And this is what we're looking after. And right now, the focus is on the left lane bandits and on trying to create some driving harmony on the highways instead of this confrontational attitude that seems to take place among some people, particularly in the summertime.
Yeah.
When you get lots of traffic on the road, more traffic, bigger vehicles, recreation vehicles, boats and trailers, motorcycles, bicycles. Everybody's got to share the roads, and it's important that we have some lane discipline. And the state of Washington recently announced a crackdown on people that hog the left-hand lanes, and we think that the BC government should too. However, there is no effective law to allow the police to go after these people, and we think there should be.
You see the signs on the side of the road, and they are on a white background, which my understanding is a sign that's on a white background is law. If it's on a yellow background, it's a sort of a generic safety advisory, if you will.
Right.
The sign that's on the white background that says slower traffic, keep right. I mean, isn't that the law?
Well, actually, that sign is super ambiguous, and that sign has largely been replaced on BC highways since 2006 with other signs that say keep right except to pass.
Right, yeah.
So that's less ambiguous, but what's also needed is some law. There is a section of the Motor Vehicle Act right now, Section 150, that allows, to a degree, some ticketing for people occupying the left-hand lane that shouldn't be there. The problem is it's just not. The wording isn't correct, and we're told by the police that the courts haven't supported it in the past, so they just don't bother anymore. The focus by the government, successive governments, this one included, and the police and ICBC over the years has been to tell us that speed kills, and most of the hundreds of thousands of tickets that are written each year are for speeding.
Yes.
And you can count on one hand the number of tickets that are written and the convictions that are obtained for impeding traffic. Just doesn't happen.
Yeah. All right. Well, let me play devil's advocate for a moment here. You're driving on a rural highway, a 4-lane rural highway, where the posted speed limit is, let's say, for argument's sake, 90, and you're in the left-hand lane doing 95 to 100, and somebody rushes up behind you. Flashes his headlights at you, honks his horn, then pulls into the right-hand lane and goes around you doing 120. Remember, the speed limit here was 90. You are exceeding the speed limit at 95 in the left-hand lane. Who's right? Who's wrong? How do you handle this situation?
You know,
and don't try and tell me that it doesn't happen.
Right. It happens quite a bit, and it kind of reminds me of the George Carlin bit. Have you ever noticed that everybody driving slower than you is an idiot, and everybody driving faster is a maniac? You know, first of all, people have no business being in the left-hand lane unless they're overtaking a car on the right. In Germany, and I hate to use Germany as a shining example, but it really is. I mean, they have some of the fastest legal speeds in the world on their highways. And the reason that their fatality rate is much lower than ours is because they have not only better drivers, but they enforce some lane discipline on their highways. It's illegal to pass on the right-hand side, and it's illegal to sit in the left-hand lane unless you're overtaking. So lane discipline is key in reducing speed variance and interactions that are caused by that variance by motor vehicles. So, you know, every time you have an interaction between cars, you increase the likelihood of collision. And highways are built to reduce interactions. That's the reason that collision rates are lower on highways. And ironically, when you get people camping out in the left-hand lane, you actually increase the interactions, which is dangerous. So, you know, you're right. In the case that you mentioned, you've really got two lawbreakers, so two wrongs don't make a right. However, you could take the person out of the left-hand lane, remove that person, and effectively, in many cases, take care of the dozens of motorists that might do what you're suggesting that motorist might do to avoid the person who's camped out in the left-hand lane.
So, just to be clear, and in your view of the world, and what we need to get through to people is that you are, quotes, camped out in the left-hand lane if you are not overtaking traffic, even if you are exceeding the posted speed limit.
Yes.
The definition of left-hand lane usage has to be that you're moving faster than the traffic in the right-hand lane, regardless of what that speed is or what the speed limit sign says.
Yes. And, you know, the reason that the slower traffic keep right signs were so ineffective is because nobody sees themselves as slower, right? I mean, who's slower? Nobody's slower. And you need to have, when you're drafting law, you need to have something that's very specific. And what in the case that you're talking about, often what would happen would be a motorist might get a ticket for impeding traffic, and as long as that motorist could prove in court that he or she was going at the speed limit or higher, the tickets are generally thrown out.
Yeah.
Well, one of the reasons that we've needed a speed review in BC is because many of the highways people have noticed are not posted properly in terms of representing the travel speeds of the majority of the safe motorists. So not everybody, but the majority of motorists are usually exceeding posted speed limits on some of the main rural highways in question.
Yeah.
You can drive from Vancouver to the interior of BC, drive from Hope to Kamloops on the Coquihalla, which is a beautiful highway.
Yep.
And the flow of traffic might be at somewhere around 125, maybe even 130, and yet the speed limit is 110.
Yeah.
So you have in many cases anywhere from 60 to 70% of the drivers exceeding the 110 kilometer an hour limit.
Yeah, just did that drive recently myself, in fact. And I would say to you that on the Coke, we didn't hit particularly heavy traffic by any means, but 100% of the traffic was exceeding the posted limit. Mm-hmm. How much of it was exceeding, 10K over the posted limit? Probably in that 50 to 60% range to which you referred. But yeah, nobody drives under. One difference I would say between. You've mentioned the Washington State example a couple of times. Mm-hmm. Seems to me that when I drive from Vancouver to Seattle, I find myself on an 8-lane freeway for a fair amount of the distance. And in British Columbia, it's pretty hard to find anything wider than a 4-lane freeway. I mean, even the Coquihalla has 2 lanes north and 2 lanes south, not 4 lanes each way. So you don't have room for a lot of variance. And
this is true. We don't have the mature freeways that you might see in parts of Europe and parts of the East Coast, and even in parts of Washington, for that matter. However, Oregon, which has got a much less of an infrastructure, I think, than Washington or some of the other states. Even in the coastal areas, you'll see that they've got laws. Well, first of all, they've got a keep right except to pass law, but they also have a slow traffic law, so that if you've got more than 5 motor vehicles behind you, and you're on a single lane freeway, you're obliged to pull over when there's a pullout. And this is the other part of it. I want it to be clear that we don't like more laws. Okay, generally personally, I prefer less laws. There are 2 types of people that are engaging in this behavior on the roads. There are those that know better, and there are those that don't know any better, and there are those that do know better. The ones that don't know any better are engaging in a type of negligence, or in some cases a type of distracted driving, and they can be dealt with education and coaxing and just more awareness. But the ones who do know better, those ones are pathological sometimes and antisocial, and there need to be laws to deal with those people, because there are self-professed highway police out there thinking that they're actually doing us all a favor by holding up the traffic and forcing people to go around them. And, they're actually increasing the danger on the roads. They're not helping anybody, and that's why we need the laws.
Ian Tootle is with Safety by Education, Not Speed Enforcement. SENSE is the organization, and we are anticipating some changes in the posted speed limits on highways in British Columbia. I want to ask you to comment quickly on my point off the top about whether some more clarification of some of the constantly changing speed limits would be a good idea as part of this, as we continue our conversation with Ian Tootle after a break on CFAX.
Email talk@cfax1070.com. Frank Stanford on CFAX 1070. Join Club 1070. Give us feedback and win. Pick your favorite topics. Tell us the guests you love or love to hate. Sign up now at cfax1070.com.
Club 1070 members get to have a say in programming, and they're eligible for great prizes such as trips, concert tickets, movie passes, gift certificates, and more.
Join Club 1070 and win. Sign up now at cfax1070.com. From the CFAX 1070 Community Cruiser, here's what's happening.
Check out Fernfest in Fernwood Square Friday night and all day Saturday, June 20th and 21st. The weekend is filled with an eclectic lineup of musical talent, showcasing the very best of Victoria's vibrant local music scene. The event is free and open to all ages with live music, art, kids activities, beer garden and barbecue, mass bike parade, and more. TD Jazz Fest Victoria 2014 runs Friday, June 20th through to Sunday, June 29th at various venues in the city. Victoria Jazz Society presents 10 hot days and nights of the coolest music in town. Join us on Canada Day, Tuesday, July 1st from 8:30 till 4 along the beautiful Gorge Waterway between Tillicum and Admirals Road. There's fun for everyone, including the Canada Day Family Parade, a pancake breakfast, Canada Day show, and more.
Watch for our 2013 Kia Soul from Graham Kia on Government Street. From Victoria's News Authority, CFAX 1070.
How Bell makes loving your superphone better.
I love my new Sony Xperia Z2.
That's a lot of love.
I love that the camera records in 4K, love the slow motion playback, and love that since it's on Bell, I can share from anywhere with blazing fast speeds. And I love that it includes Michael Jackson's new album, Escape.
Whoa.
I see what you did there.
Get the new Sony Xperia Z2 only on Canada's largest LTE network. Visit a Bell store for details. Bell, being entertained just got better.
Oh, hey, it's Sue, and you caught me daydreaming about my favorite tropical getaway. I've just learned Club Thrifty Foods members can now convert Club Thrifty Foods points to Air Miles reward miles. You can find more information at thriftyfoods.com or visit in store for more details. Then you can start planning your trip. Thrifty Foods, now with an Air Miles reward option.
This is Tom.
Hey.
He heard clunking in his truck, so he took it to Island Muffler and Brake. They diagnosed and fixed the problem right away. It was his brakes.
Sure was.
This is Kelly.
Hi there.
She went to Island Muffler and Brake when she had a problem with her car's suspension.
They fixed it.
And this is the Davis family.
Hello. How are you?
They wanted to keep their car running smoothly, so they worked out a regular maintenance schedule with, guess who? Island Muffler and Brake.
Thank you. Thanks.
Island Muffler and Brake, serving everyone in Victoria for nearly 50 years.
My GIC at my bank is maturing next week, but the rates are so low. I'm wondering what to do. Any ideas?
Sure, GIC Direct it.
GIC what it?
GIC Direct it. Just go to GICdirect.com. You'll have access to the highest GIC rates from their extensive network of financial institutions. It's simple, safe and secure, and there's no fees.
To get the highest interest rates on GICs and term deposits, go to GICdirect.com or call 250-592-7707 and keep your nest egg.
Got a GIC coming due? GIC Direct it.
Enjoy Victoria, one bite and one sip at a time. In good taste with Kathy Macquarie. Saturdays at 2 on CFAX 1070. Beyond the headlines, Frank Stanford on CFAX 1070.
Chatting this morning about an expectation of some results to be announced this summer from the province's Rural Highway Speed Limit Review. Don't know whether you took part in this review. Certainly we talked about it a number of times here on CFAX 1070 and noted elsewhere in the media. I hope you were aware of it, and if you did have something to offer to the review, you did so. Chatting this morning with Ian Tootle of the organization Sense, which has long been public policy advocate, if you will, in BC on speed and speed enforcement issues in BC. Ian, what do you think of my notion that some more consistency in speed limits on a given stretch of highway is a good idea?
Well, consistency is important. I don't really have any issue with consistency in BC. Maybe you do. You live on the island, and I don't travel there very often, so it may be more of an issue there. I have more of an issue with whether or not they represent the upper end of safe travel speed for the reasonable majority. We've somehow got this notion in North America years ago, but in particular it stayed here in BC because the rest of North America seems to be upping their speed limits quite a bit. But in BC we have speed limits that just don't represent the upper end of safe travel speed. What they represent in many cases is the minimum speed that people are traveling, and that's not what they should be.
Yeah. To tell me this, now you refer to what's happened across North America in recent years. Maybe I'm getting long in the tooth enough that some folks listening to us right now may not remember that we went through a period, it was driven in the United States primarily, where highway speed limits were actually reduced, not for safety reasons, but because it was determined that there was an optimum speed in terms of fuel efficiency.
Right.
Of around about 85 to 90 kilometers. It was 55 miles an hour was what it was in the U.S. And I think a lot of Canadian jurisdictions followed suit, although maybe not specifically. They did, by osmosis, if you will.
Yeah.
So two questions. Is that still a consideration? I don't sense that it is. But secondly, if it was still a consideration, would that still be the number, or has the technology in automobiles in the 21st century changed?
Well, of course the technology's changed and mileage is higher, and it hasn't been an issue, but it's becoming more of an issue. There are a lot of people that are suggesting that speed limits should be dropped. Of course, this is based on the wrong assumption that people choose their travel speeds based on speed limits. But there were a lot of people suggesting that speeds be dropped again so that there is some energy conservation. However, my comeback to that is I can drive a Toyota Yaris at double the speed that I could drive my F-150 at and still get better fuel economy. So, it's kind of a straw man argument. You're right about what happened in the early 70s with the energy conservation move. And what happened subsequent to that was, yes, Canada followed suit, BC followed suit, but there became much more of an industry driven by the insurance companies, in our opinion, to keep the speed limits lower because they found that quickly they could, through a couple of moving violations, people could see their insurance premiums rise by, 50%. So there was a big incentive there to make sure that speed stayed at 55 in the U.S., and it took about 2 decades of lobbying by various people to get Congress to repeal that 55-mile-an-hour mandate. And gradually, now about 40 states have increased their speed limits. Some have increased them more than once. So we're seeing a general move across the U.S. to increase speed limits. Now, having said that, there are places in Europe right now that are starting to talk about reducing them for, Netherlands has talked about it for noise reasons. But they've also talked about it in other areas for fuel conservation reasons.
So the fuel conservation is still an issue in some parts of the world.
It is, and the thing is that, as I said before, it's if you really, I didn't say this, but if you really want to take care of conservation, you just stop people from reproducing and driving altogether. I mean, there are things that we can do to improve fuel economy and still permit people to travel safely and at efficient travel speeds.
Yeah. All right. I want to go to the phones here. Steve's been really patient. Good morning, sir.
Hi, Frank. I just think that what's happening is Ian is making too much sense. And every time he does go on one of these shows and I listen to him, I think people should take note that speed is not the problem. It's people traveling at speeds other than what the flow of traffic is. Whether you're going too slow or you're going too fast, the action's going to happen around your vehicle. You're going to be the one involved in a crash. And I think the government would do well to listen to Ian a lot more than they do.
All right. Thanks, Steve. Appreciate that. On the email this morning, Sam writes, and this is a response to my comment about the Island Highway, says, I don't think consistency with speed limits is a problem. The maximum safe speed for a highway may very well fluctuate with road design and other features. The Malahat's a good example where terrain and road design varies considerably between Victoria and Duncan. And yeah, it's that piece of road that I was thinking about when I made the comment. He says a single consistent speed would not be ideal for the whole stretch.
Frank, can I just make a comment there? Yeah. You know, how you handle situations like that is you have speed advisory signs, as you mentioned earlier. There are the signs in yellow, those are advisory signs. So you can set a maximum limit, and then you can have advisories for the places where people need to go slower. And I had I interviewed a British tourist. It's on our YouTube channel. And this tourist talked about how he quickly found, after 2 weeks of driving in BC, that you could ignore most of the advisory signs because they didn't make sense, and you could go through the corners at 30 or 40 kilometers an hour faster than the sign read. So, even the tourists quickly learned that you disobey signs in British Columbia because they don't make sense.
Yeah. Need to close by asking you, we've talked a lot about what should happen in Sense's view. What do you expect will happen? Are you getting any vibes at all as to what the minister's announcement this summer is likely to be? Or announcements? I guess there'll be a number of individual ones.
I have some ideas and I have some hopes. And what we hope is that the province adopts a more engineering approach, or an engineering-based approach to reviewing and setting speed limits on an ongoing basis. And I feel that some highways will rise their speed limits will go up as a result of this review. And I hope that the government takes a serious look at dealing with speed variance as an issue on the roads and deals with left lane bandits decisively with some legislation as well as some education and signs.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. Sir, I do thank you very, very much for your time with us on the subject this morning on CFAX.
Thank you so much, Frank.
All right, Ian Tootle with safety. Is it safety by or safety through education?
It's grammatically, you've pointed out something. It's grammatically incorrect, but it's safety by education, not speed enforcement. That was the original basis of the acronym, but we're now called Sense BC.
Sense BC. All right. Yep. And the founder of that organization, he's still chief spokesperson for it, Ian Tootle. Thanks again for joining us on CFAX this morning.
Thank you very much.
And obviously there will be lots of coverage when whenever it is, sometime this summer, that the transportation minister makes the announcements of the results of the BC Rural Highway Speed Limit Review, what the provincial government does in response to it.